Job's story is one of the most profound in the Bible. He lived in the land of Uz. Job was known for his piety and wealth. He was a man of great faith and integrity. His life was a testament to devotion and righteousness. Job had a large family. He had 7 sons and 3 daughters. His wealth was immense. He owned thousands of sheep, camels, oxen, and donkeys. His household was vast, with many servants. Job was known as the greatest man among all the people of the East. Despite his riches, Job was humble. He feared God and shunned evil. He offered sacrifices regularly. He prayed for his children, concerned about their spiritual well-being. Job's life was a model of devotion and prosperity. Job's background sets the stage for his trials. His faith and prosperity were well known. His story shows the depths of human suffering and the heights of divine restoration. It begins with a man who had everything. Job's prosperity was unparalleled. His flocks and herds filled the fields. His wealth was a sign of his blessings. People looked up to him. They saw him as a man favored by God. His success was not just in material wealth, but also in his character. Job was known for his fairness. He was a judge in his community. People brought their disputes to him. They trusted his judgment. He was a man of wisdom and compassion. His righteousness was evident in his actions. Every morning, Job offered burnt offerings. He did this for each of his children. He worried they might sin in their hearts. This shows his deep concern for their spiritual state. Job's love for God was evident in his daily life. He lived a life of constant communion with God. His prosperity was a result of his righteousness. Job's life was a balance of faith and works. He was blessed because he lived a life pleasing to God. His story is a reminder that true prosperity comes from a life of faith and integrity. Job's story takes a dramatic turn. In the heavens, a conversation unfolds. God speaks with the angels. Among them is Satan, the adversary. God praises Job's righteousness. Satan challenges this, suggesting Job's faith is due to his prosperity. Satan proposes a test. He believes Job's faith is conditional. He thinks if Job loses everything, he will curse God. God allows Satan to test Job. However, he sets a limit. Satan can take away Job's possessions but cannot harm him physically. This sets the stage for Job's trials. The cosmic challenge is unseen by Job. He is unaware of the heavenly dialogue. This makes his faith even more remarkable. Job's trials are not just personal, but cosmic. His faith becomes a testament to the unseen battle between good and evil. This part of the story shows that our struggles may have deeper meanings. There are battles beyond our understanding. Job's faith in the midst of this unseen challenge is a powerful lesson. It reminds us that our faith can have cosmic significance. Job's trials begin suddenly. One day messengers bring devastating news. His oxen and donkeys are stolen. His servants are killed. Before he can react, another messenger arrives. Fire from the sky consumes his sheep and more servants. Then, another messenger tells him that the Chaldeans have taken his camels and killed more servants. The final blow comes with the worst news. A great wind collapses the house where his children were feasting. All his sons and daughters are dead. Job loses everything in a matter of moments. His wealth, his servants, and his children are gone. Job's suffering is immense. He tears his robe and shaves his head. These are signs of mourning and grief. Despite his suffering, Job's response is remarkable. He falls to the ground in worship. He acknowledges God's sovereignty. The Lord gave and the Lord has taken away. May the name of the Lord be praised. Job's reaction to his loss shows his deep faith. He does not curse God. Instead, he worships. This is the first test of his faith. It shows that Job's righteousness is not dependent on his prosperity. His faith is genuine and unwavering. Job's reaction to his losses. Job's reaction to his immense losses is profound. He is heartbroken, but he does not turn away from God. He tears his clothes and shaves his head. Yet even in his grief, he worships God. The Lord gave and the Lord has taken away. May the name of the Lord be praised. This trust is the foundation of his faith. Job's response is an example of unwavering faith. The second wave of suffering. Satan is not satisfied with Job's response. He believes Job's faith will break if he suffers physically. God allows Satan to test Job further but spares his life. Satan afflicts Job with painful sores from head to toe. Job's suffering intensifies. Job's physical agony is immense. He sits among the ashes, scraping his sores with a piece of broken pottery. His condition is so severe that his wife urges him to curse God and die. But Job remains steadfast. He rebukes her, saying, "Shall we accept good from God and not trouble?" Despite his physical torment, Job does not sin by cursing God. His faith holds firm. He is in pain, but he does not lose his integrity. His suffering is both physical and emotional. He feels abandoned and alone. Job's second wave of suffering shows the depth of his faith. His trust in God does not waver. Even in his darkest moments, he remains faithful. Job's perseverance is a testament to his unwavering faith. It reminds us that true faith endures no matter the circumstances. Job's friends and their counsel. Job's friends hear of his suffering. They come to comfort him. Eliphaz, Bildad, and Zophar sit with him in silence for 7 days. Their presence is a comfort, but when they speak, their words bring more pain. They believe Job's suffering is a result of sin. Eliphaz speaks first. He suggests that Job's suffering is a punishment. He urges Job to seek God's forgiveness. Bildad follows, insisting that God is just. He believes Job's children must have sinned. Zophar is the harshest. He claims Job's punishment is less than he deserves. Job defends his integrity. He insists he has done nothing to deserve such suffering. His friends' accusations add to his anguish. They do not understand his pain. Their words feel like a betrayal. Job longs for someone to mediate between him and God. The dialogues with his friends reveal Job's loneliness. He feels misunderstood and judged, but his faith does not falter. He continues to seek answers from God. Job's interactions with his friends show the complexity of suffering. They remind us that not all suffering is a result of sin. Job's unwavering faith. Throughout his trials, Job's faith remains steadfast. He questions, he laments, but he does not curse God. Job's dialogues with his friends and God are filled with deep theological reflections. He struggles to understand his suffering, yet his faith remains unbroken. Job's famous declaration, "Though he slay me, yet will I hope in him," captures his unwavering trust. He acknowledges God's power. He knows that his Redeemer lives. Job's faith is not blind. It is a faith that wrestles with questions but holds firm in trust. His unwavering faith is evident in his persistence. Job continues to seek God. He longs for an audience with God. He believes that if he could present his case, God would vindicate him. Job's faith is a blend of trust and longing for justice. Job's faith teaches us about perseverance. It shows that true faith can endure questions and doubts. Job's story encourages us to hold on to our faith even in the darkest times. It reminds us that faith is not the absence of doubt but the persistence of trust. God's response from the whirlwind. After Job's long lament, God finally speaks. He answers Job out of a whirlwind. God's response is not a direct answer to Job's questions. Instead, God reveals his majesty and power. He asks Job a series of questions, highlighting the vastness of his creation. God's questions are profound. Where were you when I laid the earth's foundation? Can you bind the chains of the Pleiades? These questions remind Job of the limitations of human understanding. God's wisdom and power are beyond comprehension. God's response humbles Job. He realizes the vastness of God's wisdom. Job acknowledges his limitations. He repents in dust and ashes. God's response is a reminder of his sovereignty. It shows that his ways are higher than our ways. God's response teaches us about humility. It reminds us that we may not always understand our suffering, but we can trust in God's wisdom and power. Job's encounter with God is a turning point. It shifts his perspective from questioning to trusting. Restoration of Job's fortunes. After God's response, Job's fortunes are restored. God rebukes Job's friends for their harsh words. He instructs them to offer sacrifices. Job prays for his friends, and God accepts his prayer. This act of intercession marks the beginning of Job's restoration. God blesses Job's latter days more than his beginning. He receives double of everything he had lost. His flocks and herds are restored. He has 7 sons and 3 daughters again. His daughters are noted for their beauty, and he gives them an inheritance along with their brothers. Job lives a long and prosperous life. He sees his children and their children to the 4th generation. His life is filled with blessings. Job's restoration is a testament to God's faithfulness. It shows that God honors those who remain faithful. The restoration of Job's fortunes is a powerful conclusion. It shows that God's justice prevails. Job's story ends with hope and restoration. It reminds us that suffering is temporary. God's blessings are eternal. Job's life is a testament to the power of faith and perseverance. Lessons on faith, patience, and trust in God. Job's story is rich with lessons. His faith teaches us about perseverance. Despite immense suffering, Job's faith remains unbroken. He shows us that true faith endures through trials. It is a faith that trusts in God's wisdom and timing. Job's patience is another profound lesson. He waits for God's response. His patience is not passive but active. He continues to seek God. Job's story reminds us that patience is a vital part of faith. It is about waiting on God's timing with trust and hope. Trust in God is the core of Job's story. He trusts God's sovereignty and justice. Even when he does not understand, he trusts that God is in control. Job's story encourages us to trust God, even in the midst of suffering. It shows that God's ways are higher than our ways. The story of Job is a timeless reminder of the power of faith. It teaches us that suffering is not the end. God's justice and blessings prevail. Job's life is an inspiring example of unwavering faith, patience, and trust in God. It encourages us to hold on to our faith, no matter the circumstances.
Thanks for watching, friends. God richly bless you, and don't forget to subscribe, share, and hit the bell for more content from Uncle Paul's Bible Stories for All Made Simple. Have a blessed day.